All right, I'm here with my buddy Rocky, and this is Rocky's Roadmap to Success. So we went through a lot of stuff in this session. We started off by going over marker words. Now, by the time you guys see this, you guys should have already done that, but you need to do the loading exercise. That means you're going to have 20 treats, walk around your house and say yes, give them a treat, take a couple steps, go to the next room, same thing. And then about 20 minutes or longer later, you would do the same thing with the clicker. You want to really get that done within the next 2 or 3 days, maybe by this weekend, hopefully be done with that completely. At that point, then we start using the marker word when he does the things you want. So we went over hand targeting as an exercise for him to do that. So touch, yes. So you mark the thing that you want. Unless it has duration like potty, then you would say the marker word at the end of it. So we went over hand targeting. If you want a video on that one, let me know if I don't have it linked above in the write-up. Yeah, talking about you, buddy. Handsome. Yeah. Let me see. Then we went over how to introduce cues. Remember, the cue should not come unless you're 90% certain that when you say the cue, the dog does the action. If you find yourself repeating it, you probably need to practice that activity a little bit more. And use that marker word. The marker word, again, we should be 100% for that. We also went over celebrating. Celebrating is rewarding him when he voluntarily does the things you want. He comes to you, he sits, he lays down. I also would recommend, I don't think you said it was bad on the walk, but one of the foundations of loose leash walking is rewarding the dog for being with us. So I have treats in my hand on a walk. Every time the dog looks at me, I say yes, and I hold the treat out. The dog has to come back to me to get that treat. And the more that I do that, the more likely the dog is going to check in with us because I'm giving out treats like a doggy slot machine. Now, celebrate is easy for us to forget, so I usually get into a habit of saying celebrate to somebody. So if I'm sitting here and he comes and lays down next to me, I didn't see it or wasn't paying attention, somebody says, celebrate, I would say yes, and I would start petting him, even though I normally say don't pet dogs when they're sleeping, but he's not quite asleep yet. And so we're just going to reward him when he voluntarily does sits, laying down, coming to us, going to the dog bed, when he goes to the bathroom, anything that's desirable. Eye contact works. There we go. All right, so we also went over the concept that I call manners, which is basically correcting dogs through a do-over. So if the dog comes up and he's pawing at you or barking or nudging for attention, tell him to do something else. A lot of us, we don't actually teach the dog the behavior we want. We just assume they're not going to do the thing we don't want them to do. But for dogs, they do whatever gets attention. Remember, fundamentally, anything that the dog is doing before it gets attention, which could be yelling at it no, or giving it a treat, or petting it, is what you're specifically rewarding your dog for doing. And a lot of us, we accidentally chastise a dog or correct a dog for doing things we don't want, and we train them to do the thing we don't want. So that's why celebrating comes in handy. It really helps us undo that. Now, the do-over concept is if I'm here and Rocky comes over, he nudges me, he's saying, hey man, pet me. So instead of petting him, I would tell him to sit if he knows how to sit. If he sits, after I say it one time, he has 2 seconds to sit. If he sits, I say yes and pet him under his chin. If he doesn't sit, I just go back to doing what I was doing. There's no correction, but I'm not going to give him extra attention. After a while, he'll start coming and sitting in front of you to prepay for that attention. When he does, you bet your butt, you better pet him. Now, at times, the guardian said he comes up when they're working from home and he wants some attention from them. And he sometimes gets a little spicy. Yes, thank you, buddy. Thank you. And so what I would recommend when he does that is just, try to placate him, give him a bully stick or something. But if he doesn't, take him out for a 5-minute sniff walk. Spend 2 or 3 minutes training him. Work on the nail trim conditioning, touching his nose, touching his paw, and then give him that treat. Those are things that mental exercise is very stimulating and it drains a lot of energy. So and he's overly tired at this point, and that's why I think he's being a little bit rowdy. Yes, good job, buddy. Yes. So remember, when he's overly mouthy, especially for puppies, that's also always often an indicator that they're uncomfortable or that they're overly tired. So we talked about earlier, he didn't like going in the kennel. So we went over an exercise, and I would just practice having him go in and out of the kennel. Just toss a treat in there. Use that whatever high value treat you need to, and just as soon as he steps in there, say yes. Then he gets the treat. And just the most important thing is he reps going in and out, in and out, in and out. Now, because he doesn't really chew stuff up, I was saying he might not need to go into be kenneled at night, but you might need to kennel him during the day for an hour or two because it doesn't sound like he's getting much sleep. And so if he's getting really mouthy with you, ask yourself how long has it been since he's gotten a nap. If it's in too long, he might need a little bit of a nap and time to just settle and cool his jets. Let me see. We also went over feeding him out of a snuffle mat, getting an Omega Paw Tricky Trainer treat ball, and lick mat. I believe the Guardian's already done. The snuffle mat I like is the Runda, Runda. It's a gray one, and it's got a little bit of a band around it. So feeding him that out of his snuffle mat is like getting him an extra walk, buddy. Yes, if I weren't be for me being weak from having food poisoning for 2 days, I would be able to support this. All right, and so he's so mouthy with me right now. Again, I think this is an indication he's overly tired. So if he's like this, again, ask yourself how long it's been, and then go in there, put him in the kennel, and hang out in the room so he knows that you're with him, at least initially. So otherwise, he'll look at it as a negative. Let me see. We also went over tug of war is a great way to burn energy. You're going to go ahead and get into the treat pouch. Yeah, you're going to take the whole thing, huh? Crafty. Now, we went over a nail conditioning exercise, which was the one where we just basically held a treat to his nose at first, touched his paw, and then I released the treat. But after a while, then we reversed the order, and where I touched his paw, then I gave him a treat. Before I go over that, we went over cutoff signals, which is probably, I think, the most important thing in this particular session. So cutoff signals for dogs include turning their head away, flipping the ears back, leaning away, refusing to come to you, getting stiff and still, looking at you from the side with what we call whale eye, where you see a lot of white of their eye. Breathing heavy could be an indication of, breathing heavy and licking the lips can be an indication of stress. Refusing to come to us, or refusing to listen to us, or just freezing, like rolling over his belly is his way of, please don't do whatever it is you're doing. So I think the Guardians here had been missing some of those things, and that's, I think, part of the reason why he got overly mouthy. And I think sometimes he's overly mouthy and he gets attention for it. So we talked about that the negative punishment, but let me know if he starts getting rowdy or that becomes problematic. We can work out with other things to help him stop doing that. But the cutoff signals, it's really important to watch for. So once we recognize those, and baring the teeth and growling are pretty obvious cutoff signals. But if we recognize what those are and we stop doing whatever it is or increase the distance between him and whatever it is, he doesn't have to go any further. And so anytime he's reacted, the best thing you do is increase distance between him and whatever it is. And it could be your hand. Now, you always want to make it easier. So when we were putting on the collar, are you going to bite me in the nipple, huh? All right. So what I was having you guys do is from the side, but for this collar, and again, I was just going to plain Jane one without all this extra accoutrement. Like that Velcro. So I was just basically, I dropped all the treats. So I have a treat here. So I go like this. Yes, he gets a treat. He's not like having his collar put on. So yes, treat. Yes, treat. Yes, treat. Right there, I got a little bit greedy. I probably should have stopped and gone a couple more, but this is a long video, so I don't want to go too long. But again, always make it easier and go at his pace. And it might be times where you're doing it, you don't actually attach it to him. That's okay. Practice shouldn't be an emergency. An emergency is not the time to practice. So any of these things that you want to go over, make sure you're doing that. Snag. There you go. So when he's getting mouthy, teach him that snag. So throw a toy that you know he likes on the ground. As soon as he picks it up, say yes. And when you can do that consistently, say snag or whatever the word is. So when he gets mouthy with you, you can tell him to snag something. So he grabs a toy and he's chewing on that instead of chewing you. And dogs prefer to get stuff instead of just giving it to him. So teasing him like this is going to make it more easy, more appealing for him. Yeah. And if, a lot of times they want a response from us. So if it does have a squeaker, and again, I don't like a lot of squeaker toys, but there is a trade-off, and I'd rather have the dog squeaking something and expressing himself that way than chewing on my hand, which is what you were doing before, weren't you, silly boy? Yes. Okay, for the sock, there's a grippy sock that the Guardians have that they put on him, but he really doesn't like it. So just take a regular tube sock, scrunch it down so you can like just basically, so you put it on, and then just put touches to his deal, give yes and give a treat. Same thing I just did with the collar, but eventually you lay it over a little bit more, and it's a nice loose sock. Once you get to the point where it's on, then you give him a treat and another treat. And as long as he's looking at me like this, I don't want him to go to try to take it off. So you give him treats as fast as you need to prevent that from happening. After a while, he knows this is the game. You want me to take that off? I'll take it off for you, buddy. He knows that's the game, and then he stops. There we go. The Velcro part gotcha. And then he's practicing having it on for longer and longer periods of time. But the early stages, taking it on or off, or putting it on really, is what he needs to do. So put it on a little bit, take it off, give him a treat. Put it on, give him a treat. Yeah, let's not chew on that on camera. That's probably not a good thing. Got a good good example. But eventually get to the point where he likes having that put on because it means I'm going to get a treat afterwards. So remember all these activities that he's doing, how can I make it easier so that he enjoys it and I can provide him with a treat afterwards so that it's a good activity. Now, we also went over the fork and the folding your hand over deal. That's to teach bite inhibition. Now, what he's doing now, I think, is overly tired. So although he might know how to have bite inhibition, he might choose not to. So again, this might be an indication. At this point, we've been here for 3 hours, so I'm pretty sure he's just tired. But I think that because the guardian said he's not sleeping as much, oh, there you go. You can get all the ones on the floor. That I think that adding in a little extra sleep will help. Now, the video above talks about the ramp, but let me know if you have any questions or problems with that one. I'm happy to share you other tips and exercises with that one. But I think if you guys practice and go at his pace, you'll be pretty good with that. I would also do the carrying thing. So when I carry, I have one arm behind his butt and one arm in front of his chest. So I'm just grasping him, and I give him a treat. Grasp, yes. I'm not picking him up, just getting used to that sensation of my hand on his chest and on his butt. And then eventually I lift him 1 inch off the ground, not even an inch, just barely off, and then right back down, release, and give him a treat. Gradually, you're lifting him higher and higher, eventually getting up and walking him around the house, and he's comfortable with you doing that. So the key to that, it's better for him to be comfortable with that and not have you need it than have you need to do it and he's not comfortable with it. Now, we also went over shaping onto his side. And so the shaping is for the exam, because he probably will need other exams for this. And so what you do is, first of all, you make sure you have treats ready. I'll give you the really good treats. This is what we call crack. This is my favorite. This is Doggie's favorite treat. We call it crack because dogs feed for it. Let's give you your first piece. Taste for free. Yeah, I thought you might like that. All right, how about a sit? You go straight to the source, huh? Yes. There you go. And then down. Yes. And then you just go, the first step is just get him to turn his head to the side. Yes. And after you do it enough, then you can do the same thing, turn to the side, and then raise it up a little bit. And that is a lot faster than you normally will do it, but eventually getting him used to that. And I would do that because you're going to have other people who are going to need to examine his leg, and having him comfortable with that just sets you up for success down the road. Now, I would also go to your vet office. Find out when how is he with other dogs?
He's great with other dogs.
So not all dogs at the vet office are happy to be there. So a lot of times I recommend for a happy vet visit, you do it at the end of the day. If you can, now it's LA, 5 o'clock traffic sucks, depending on what time your vet closes. Or maybe go on the weekend, but just go in there and throw treats down that hallway. Just get him used to walking up and down that hallway. He doesn't get examined, and it's just nothing but good and positive things happen. Now, when it comes to food for dogs, the smell or the smell of the food is the most important thing. Temperature is number 2. Taste is actually a distant third. So if he likes chicken, get some warm chicken or roast beef and use that at the vet office. That way you're kind of using a higher value deal. And we want to make the vet or go to the groomer into something he likes doing, because I went there without being examined or groomed. I just went there, got a whole bunch of treats, then we left. It was a good, pleasant experience. So next time I go there, that's what I'm expecting to have happen. Right? Yeah. Let me see what else. I guess that's pretty much, I'm getting good at summarizing these things pretty faster. I would recommend, like I said, see if you go to a carpet, call around to some carpet stores and say, hey, I got an injured dog, we need a long strip of carpet. Do you have an install where you have an extra section? They'll have one. The way they have to cut the carpet, they might have one, and they just throw it away. They don't even think about it. So if you tell them, look, I want one, and I'll pay $50 for it or whatever, you don't have to pay $3,000 for a runner. But if you have one that's around, I think it's going to make a really good quality of life for him. Also making sure that he has one, all 4 paws when he's drinking water can be on that. You're going to determine. That treat pouch is empty though. You've got all the treats. Yes. He is a goofball. But no, I think that he's a good dog. I think he just was a little bit confused, just a little bit of miscommunication between the humans and dog, and I think that now you guys know that, plus the other tips that we covered should really help him. Now, if you have any questions on the stuff we went over in this, that we didn't talk about in this video or anything else, please let me know. I have thousands of videos I'm happy to share from other client sessions, or I can just help you out over the phone. Well, this is my buddy, Rocky, yes, and this is Rocky's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.